Vickie Dawn Jackson, known as the Angel of Death, was a small-town nurse from Texas who betrayed the trust of her patients and colleagues in the most horrifying way possible. Between December 2000 and February 2001, Jackson was responsible for the deaths of at least 10 patients at the Nocona General Hospital in Nocona, Texas. Her preferred method of killing was injecting her vulnerable victims with the muscle relaxant Mivacron, a drug used to paralyze patients during surgery. The case shocked the quiet rural town and the entire nation, raising disturbing questions about how a trusted medical professional could become a cold-blooded serial killer. Vickie Dawn Jackson was born on February 13, 1966, and grew up in the small town of Bowie, Texas. Like many people in rural America, she led what appeared to be an ordinary life. She married twice, had 2 children, and eventually settled into a nursing career at the local hospital in Nocona, a town known more for its boot-making industry than for anything else. Jackson's co-workers described her as quiet, hard-working, and kind, someone who was trusted by her peers and the patients she cared for. For years, Jackson's life seemed normal. She had the respect of her colleagues, and there was no indication that she was capable of harming anyone. However, beneath this facade of normalcy, Jackson was hiding a dark secret that would unravel in the most horrifying way. The murders began at Nocona General Hospital in late 2000. Over the course of just a few months, an alarming number of elderly patients started to die unexpectedly. These patients were all admitted for relatively routine conditions, and although many were elderly, their sudden deaths raised suspicions among hospital staff. Most of the patients had been under Jackson's care at the time of their deaths, but at first, no one imagined that a trusted nurse could be responsible for such tragedies. What eventually tipped off authorities were the unexplained deaths of patients who were not expected to die. One of the most disturbing aspects of Jackson's crimes was her apparent randomness in choosing victims. While many of the patients were elderly or ill, some were on the road to recovery when they were suddenly and inexplicably paralyzed and died. Jackson injected her victims with Mivacron, a powerful drug that paralyzes the muscles and stops breathing. This drug is normally used in controlled settings during surgeries, but in Jackson's hands, it became a lethal weapon. Hospital officials eventually began to suspect foul play as the deaths mounted and patterns emerged. After a detailed internal investigation, they found that several vials of Mivacron had gone missing from the hospital supply. Since Jackson had been on duty during most of the deaths and had access to the drug, she quickly became a suspect. In February 2001, hospital officials notified authorities, and an investigation was launched into the suspicious deaths. In December 2001, after a lengthy investigation, Jackson was arrested and charged with murder. Law enforcement officers found vials of Mivacron in her home, and it became clear that she had been systematically killing patients under her care. Jackson's case was dubbed that of the Angel of Death, a chilling moniker often used to describe medical professionals who take the lives of their patients, betraying the trust of the most vulnerable members of society. Vickie Dawn Jackson's trial began in October 2005, and it quickly became clear that the prosecution had a strong case against her. The evidence against Jackson was overwhelming. The stolen vials of Mivacron, the testimony of hospital staff, and the alarming number of unexplained deaths all pointed to her guilt. Jackson's defense team tried to paint her as overworked and stressed, suggesting that the deaths were accidental or that Jackson was mentally unstable. However, the prosecution countered these claims by arguing that Jackson had intentionally chosen her victims and carried out the murders with calculated precision. During the trial, several of Jackson's colleagues testified, revealing that they had grown suspicious of her behavior. Many hospital staff had noticed the pattern of deaths that occurred when Jackson was on duty, and some even recounted how Jackson seemed indifferent to the deaths of her patients. The jury also heard the harrowing accounts of the families of Jackson's victims, who were devastated by the loss of their loved ones and horrified to learn that their deaths were not natural. In October 2005, Jackson was convicted of multiple counts of capital murder and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She avoided the death penalty by pleading no contest to the charges. Jackson never offered a clear motive for her crimes, leaving many to wonder why a seemingly compassionate nurse would commit such horrific acts. The case of Vickie Dawn Jackson sent shockwaves through the medical community and the public at large. The thought that a trusted nurse, someone who had taken an oath to care for and heal her patients, could turn into a cold-blooded killer was unfathomable. Jackson's case raised serious questions about hospital oversight, patient safety, and the psychological screening of healthcare professionals. To this day, no one truly understands what drove Jackson to kill. Some have speculated that she enjoyed the power she held over life and death, while others believe that she was deeply disturbed and may have sought attention or control. Whatever the motive, the legacy of Vickie Dawn Jackson remains a chilling reminder of the potential dangers that can lurk in seemingly safe places. The victims of Vickie Dawn Jackson were ordinary people, mothers, fathers, grandparents, who trusted their nurse to care for them in their final moments. Instead, they were met with betrayal and death at the hands of someone who was supposed to protect them. The case remains one of the most disturbing examples of medical homicide in American history. Vickie Dawn Jackson, the Angel of Death, will forever be remembered as a nurse who used her position of trust to carry out a series of heinous murders. Her case not only highlights the vulnerability of patients but also serves as a sobering reminder of the importance of vigilance in the medical community. While the exact reasons for her crimes may never be fully understood, the devastation she caused to the families of her victims is undeniable. Jackson's case continues to captivate and horrify, standing as a stark reminder that evil can lurk even in the most trusted of professions. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy true crime stories and chilling unsolved mysteries, be sure to like this video, leave a comment, and hit the subscribe button for more spine-tingling content.